We have 5 different packages: rookie, starter, veteran, Hall of Fame, and GOAT, with each one increasing in different types of betting analysis for you. Just know if you subscribe to any one of these tiers on the TWSN betting Patreon, you're getting a team that is putting hours and hours daily into the best bets, into the futures bets, into any question that you have. So there's only one thing left to do. Join the TWSN betting Patreon, as there's only one way to bet the right way.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Hey guys, welcome back. We took a week off last week, but we're back with the TWSN Soccer Sit-Down Show. We have a lot to talk about today. So much has happened in the past week and a half. We've had teams stink it up. We've had teams do well. We've had a manager hire, a manager managing firing. We have UCL semifinals next week, and in addition to that, we have a possible manager going to another big club. So a lot to talk about today. Christian, how you doing?
Good, man. Yeah, beautiful day here at Marist. We had a big game this morning, so a lot going on, but excited to be talking about a lot of stuff going on, as you mentioned before.
Max, how about you?
Doing well, man. Excited to talk about fixing Man United. I mean, Man United has had quite a bit of trouble. They obviously just lost this morning to Arsenal. So I'm excited to go into that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that loss to Arsenal, I thought that was one of the better games that Manchester United just played, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think they've been pretty poor lately, and they did okay for most of the game, but they still stunk it up because they're not a good team, and they have a very bad midfielder in Bruno Fernandez. But overall, that team is just bad. But they've hired Erik ten Hag to come in next season, which should help them out, but there's a lot to get done. So, Max, I'll start with you. What's your opinion of the ten Hag hiring? Also, before we actually get into that, what's your takeaway from, I guess Man United so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, to start off with the second question, I think they've been really disappointing this year, to say the least. They went in with the expectation when you bring in Rafael Varane, Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho all in a transfer window, the expectation is to, at the very least, automatically qualify for top 4 and maybe compete for at least a domestic trophy or two. And they fell short on all fronts. They're not going to qualify for the Champions League. They may not even qualify for Europe, depending on how bad their form ends up being this year. And there's a lot of dysfunction all around the club. I mean, from the higher ups to the players on the pitch. No, there is no sense of unity. There is no sense of wanting to right the ship, and it's just been a disaster, to say the least. I think then, to answer your question about Erik ten Hag, I think he was the best person they could have brought in this year, to be completely honest with you. Frankly, I think Antonio Conte, when Conte was first linked to United, would have made the most sense for them, especially if they wanted to salvage something from this season with the team they have. But considering that they let him go to Spurs, I think that Erik ten Hag makes a lot of sense, especially for a team that needs a massive rebuild, both internally and on the pitch. So he's definitely a guy that's proven in his time in the Netherlands that he's a developmental guy, that he's a guy that can get the best out of his players, and that he does not care what type of player you are, what stature of player you are. He will tell you, his system of play, and if you don't fit that system, he will kick you off the team. And I think that's exactly what United need.
Yeah, I agree. But first things foremost, thoughts out to Ronaldo's family. We haven't got a chance to discuss that. So just thoughts out to him, and prayers out to those dealing with that situation. It's been very difficult. And the reception from fans, both from, I believe, Anfield and the Emirates, has been excellent. So wanted to mention that. But yeah, agree with a lot of what Max just mentioned. We talked before the show even started. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 windows to fully rebuild this Manchester United squad. And right now you can only really think of about maybe 2 or 3 players that could be in a starting 11 that can challenge for a title, I think. And that's assuming that it can even progress to higher levels. I think of a guy like Jadon Sancho that could be in a team that could be in a title-winning side down the line. Maybe a guy like Anthony Elanga, who I think has a lot of potential off that wing as well. But other than that, I mean, can Rafael Varane be there? Maybe. Nobody in the midfield at the moment, I think, could be in a title
Respect
winning
Fred,
side.
please. Please respect Fred.
I mean, Fred's been better under Ranić, but I don't know if I can consider him to be there. So, like Max mentioned, I think Erik ten Hag was the perfect fit. He's going to have to do a lot of work, though, and they're going to have to be patient with him, the board. Otherwise, this is going to be very difficult and even harder for him to really have some success, especially, in a couple of years, because I think best case scenario for them at the end of this season is they get no Europe. I think that he needs a full season of just
I
focus
agree with that.
and the League Cup and the FA Cup. That's all he can worry about, because we saw in the Champions League this year they had so much else going on in the league, and they were very disappointing against Atletico Madrid. So I think just having a full reset where you don't have any Champions League, no Europa League, no Conference League is the best situation for United for Ten Hag's first season. But yeah, I mean, it's been a disastrous year from start to finish with Ole and then Ranić. It's just been disappointing as a whole. So they don't deserve to be in the top 4. They don't really deserve to be in the top 6. And I think there's a good chance that West Ham could even get ahead of them, and they will have no European football next year.
Yeah, I mean, I want to touch on the fact that you said that the board needs to be patient with Ten Hag, and I mean, I think we've seen that they are patient board, at least with Ole. I mean, they gave him way too long. And then just the team. I agree with you, Christian. The team is bad. Like, players, I think, can be there in the future. Fred, considering what he's shown this season, I think he's been pretty good. And he's at least good enough to be a bench player on that team, like a first sub. Number 2, Sancho, and even him is debatable, considering there's times where he looks pretty bad. But I'm there with the potential with him. I think the issue with him is he's not fast. He's not a great dribbler, but he can create. If his creation can pick up, he'll be fine. But if not, he possibly just not cut out for the Prem. But I'm willing to give him another season before I make that decision. Other than that, Ronaldo, he's just old, right? He can't really link up play, so he's going to be gone. Bruno Fernandez is one of the worst footballers I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, the guy's a stat merchant. He'll give you a goal and assist somehow, but do absolutely nothing else in the game. He has a terrible touch. He can't pass the ball that well. Like, I feel like I'm going on that Stephen A. Smith rant where it's like his hands are too small. It's just, everything about Bruno Fernandez screams not a footballer, but somehow he still managed to get goals and assists every once in a while. Like, he can't be your 10. He can't be your 10. He just can't. Rashford has regressed insanely, an insane amount, to the point where he might be a Crystal Palace player in a couple of years. Their back line is awful. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is only capable of tackling. He has terrible positioning. He's terrible on the ball. Harry Maguire is just extremely mistake-prone. $80 million for someone who can barely play defense. He's decent on the ball, but that's about it. De Gea's positioning is always bad, and he can't pick out a pass to save his life. Varane takes sabbaticals every few weeks because he just chooses not to play. Then you got your left back. You got Luke Shaw, who looked great in Euros, and now he looks awful. And who's their backup over there? Alex Telles. He can't play. He's awful. Scott McTominay, apparently there was a stat that I saw on Twitter, and it said that through the first 45 minutes, he didn't complete 10 passes today. The team is genuinely awful. Like, there's so much they need to do. They just need to let Ten Hag cook. But the board is also incompetent over there. I mean, Manchester United Football Club is just a terribly run institution. I think we need to talk about that too. We need to address that first and foremost. They spend money, but they have no footballing minds there.
Can we? I was wondering if I could just break down the players that I think need to go, like no questions asked.
Oh, go right ahead.
So I think to start off, I think the untouchables. Let me be positive first, actually. So I'll tell you the players that don't have to go first. I think De Gea should stay. I think De Gea has proven to be, honestly, their best, most consistent player. No questions asked, regardless of position. I think De Gea should stay. I think Rafael Varane should stay. I think his leadership. I think, yes, he's been spotty in form, but I think that's as a result of the team around him and also injuries. So I would keep him. I would honestly probably keep Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw has shown, especially last year and throughout the Euros, that he is a pretty capable left back. I'm not saying that you'd start him week in and week out, but I do think that at the very least as a rotation guy, as a guy coming off the bench to serve a role, I think he could certainly do that. And I think that you can make the same argument with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but in particular with no upside to start. I don't think he's a starting caliber right back. I do think that he does hold a place in the team, though. I would look at guys like Brandon Williams, who was loaned out to Norwich. He's a fullback. He's a youngster. Maybe try to give him a chance to break into the first team. I certainly think that he can do that. I think in the midfield, frankly, I think obviously you got to keep Bruno Fernandez. As much as I agree with Joe, he's kind of a stat merchant. I don't rate him as highly as a lot of people. I just think the fact you just signed him to an extension, obviously you keep Bruno Fernandez. Fred, I'm on the fence about. I do think he does have the ability to hold a role, at least coming off the bench. He's definitely not one of their worst players, but I do think that Fred can be a little bit shocking sometimes with his form. So maybe monitor him. I like Amad Diallo, who's out on loan at Rangers. I think he's a pretty good youngster that they can bring in. And lastly, I think Donny van de Beek has to stay. Obviously, when you bring in Erik ten Hag, he got the best out of him at Ajax. I have no doubt that he could do the same thing again with him. So you keep Donny van de Beek. Actually, one more midfielder before I forget is Scott McTominay. I rate him. I think his work rate is really, really good. I don't know about his technical ability as much, but I do think that is a guy that will work for the manager. Scott McTominay is that guy. And with regard to the forwards, I would keep Marcus Rashford for another year. Give Marcus Rashford a chance to shine under the new manager. And if he doesn't pan out, then you let him go. But I think to give up on him now would be a disservice to him. Cristiano Ronaldo, I would actually get rid of Cristiano Ronaldo, but I'll get into that later. I think you obviously keep Jadon Sancho. He's a young player. Anthony Elanga, you keep. If you want Christian, I'll let you go because I don't want to take up too much time with the players that I think should go. But if you want to maybe just touch on the players you keep, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of your points. I think you certainly have to keep guys like Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandez, these guys who have not played well this season because, yes, last season they were much better, and you have to hope they can come back under a better manager because I think we can all agree Ten Hag's better than Ole. He's better than Ranić. He's miles ahead both of those at this moment in time. So you would hope that under a better manager, that players who have underperformed this season after performing so well last season will, go back to the level they were at, or at least get a little bit better and closer to what they were like last season. Because a lot of these guys, Luke Shaw was one of the best left backs in the league last year. Bruno Fernandez, I know.
Maguire was also one of the best center backs last year. So
who was?
Maguire.
Right. Maguire's a very interesting situation because, he's really not a guy who was worth the price tag he was given. But if you cut that in half, it's a more reasonable price. But of course, that's not something we can talk about because that's all hypotheticals. But I think the other guy we need to mention too, who's coming back on loan, is Martial. I know a lot of people are, very critical of him. A lot of people don't really think there's much there to him. He hasn't been great for Sevilla. But the forward line is interesting. I don't think Rashford's a number 9 anymore, or at least that's not his best position. If you're talking about getting rid of Ronaldo, I think that's a perfectly reasonable argument because he doesn't do a lot of pressing, and he does score his goals. But I'm not sure Ten Hag is, going to want that out of his striker. Look what he's turned Sebastian Haller into. So I think he's going to go with more youth out of that 9 position, and then Cavani's not going to come back. So either they really have to go into the market and try to find a 9, which is not the easiest thing to do. If they want to spend a lot of money, there are options. I'm sure you can go for a guy like Victor Osimhen, Alexander Isak from Real Sociedad, Darwin Nunez from Benfica. There's a lot of options at that 9 position if you want to go for youth. So I think that's going to be a big position to fill. But yeah, I agree with a lot of the guys Max mentioned. There are certainly untouchables, but there's a lot of guys they have to get rid of in order to really start rebuilding the squad. Otherwise, they're in for more of mediocrity next season.
Yeah, team My concern is with the board. I think we could argue that with Ranier in charge that they're going to make good footballing decisions. But, I mean, just looking at the history with that team, I just don't know if they're going to make the right decisions. It seems like they go after big names for big money rather than correct fits. Like, I think this summer, I think we were all banging on the table, get them a DM, get them a DM, get a DM. And instead, they got Cristiano Ronaldo, which just didn't make sense to me. I also think that Ronaldo move kind of put Ole in a bad position too. Not that we ever thought he was that good, but kind of handicapped him because you got to play Ronaldo, and it kind of just screws up your whole team. I'm with you on Rashford though. Like he needs to get another year. He deserves it, but he's been bad this year. Pogba to PSG though.
I'm wondering if I can go into the players that.
Too.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I can go into the players that I think need to go.
Yes.
No questions asked.
Yeah,
It's going to take a little bit, so bear with me here. I think if you're looking at goalkeepers, it's not that Dean Henderson isn't a good player. I just think that he deserves an opportunity to be a starting goalkeeper in the Premier League. And I just think that considering that they're rumored to get Sam Johnstone from West Brom, I think he serves that purpose, that role of a backup goalkeeper better than Dean Henderson. So I think you capitalize on Dean Henderson's stock and you sell him. I think with regard to the defenders, I think you got to get rid of Phil Jones already. I would get rid of Maguire. I would get rid of Phil Jones. I would get rid of Diego Dalot. I would get rid of Alex Telles. And then maybe give Twsn a chance to break into the first team. If he doesn't pan out, loan him out. But I would certainly get rid of, again, that's Maguire, Phil Jones, Erik Bailly. Lindelof, I'm on the fence because maybe as a rotational squad player he fits, but I think those three need to go. Dalot needs to go. Telles needs to go. With the midfield, Pogba's going to leave, so I won't even address that. Juan Mata's going to leave, so I don't have to address that. Lingard's going to leave, so I don't have to address that.
He should have left last year. He should have got his transfer to West Ham. I don't know.
he should have went to West. Yeah,
Really, I mean, it's just terrible decision making up front. They really should have done that. I think Pereira kind of has one foot out the door. Andreas Pereira, I don't think he's good enough for Man United. Nemanja Matic already confirmed he's gone. And yeah, I mean, that pretty much covers 3/4 of their midfielders already. And then with forwards, I actually disagree with you, Christian. I think Martial needs to go. I don't think he's good enough for Man United. I think he's too inconsistent. When he has a good game, he's pretty clinical in front of goal, but he's very streaky. Like he goes on a patch of form for a month where he scores every game, and then he goes for 3 months without scoring. I just don't think that's consistent enough for them and for their aspirations. So I would get rid of Martial. I think Edison Cavani's too old. You let him walk. And then, yeah, I mean, again, most of these forwards are youngsters. Obviously, Mason Greenwood, we know his situation. I would get rid of him regardless, whether or not he's guilty or innocent. I won't go into the details, but I just don't think he's a presence that you need at the club at the current moment. And so I would get rid of Mason Greenwood as well. But again, I can't stress this enough. I would give Rashford a second chance. I think although he's been really bad this year and he's been kind of just inconsistent throughout his career, I just think there's still a player in there. And I think that under the right management, you can still get the best out of him. And considering that he's still so young, it doesn't hurt to give him a chance. So that's my take on it. Christian, I'm curious to hear your list.
Yeah, I just want to clarify on Martial. I just wanted to raise the question. I'm not quite sure he should stay. I think honestly he needs a new situation as well. And I know Sevilla hasn't particularly panned out. But yeah, I just raised the question because I mean, when you think about it, you're probably right. Unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen with the Greenwood situation. Not something we really want to detail here, but they could end up with no true number 9s going into next season that are in-house at the moment, which then raise the question, can Rashford play there, or do you want to really play? I don't know what Ten Hag's going to want to do. So you probably have to go in the market and spend a lot of money to get a striker, especially because United's going to want to challenge for top 4 next season immediately.
Darwin Nunez makes so much sense.
I think that's a very good. I mean, we've got to see him on.
What if Ten Hag brings Haller with him?
I don't think he's good enough for Man United.
I don't think he's very good. I think there's good player in him, but not for the Premier League. I don't think he fits the league. He wasn't very good for West Ham, and I know Ten Hag's a better manager than I think David Moyes was with him at the time. And David Moyes has done an excellent job with Michael Antonio, but I just don't see Haller panning out in the Premier League. But yeah, Max mentioned Darwin Nunez. I think that's a very good fit. I think Osimhen's going to be a little too much, and I'm not sure Napoli wants to sell. Isak is fine. I think that's a good one too, but there's certainly options. But yeah, I think that the worst part about it is how many players Max is mentioning that they have to get rid of, and I think all of them are valid. That there's 60% of the squad at least, maybe more, that has to go. And there's at least one guy at every single position that has to leave in order for this squad to finally get back to the level it's at or needs to be at. That's the staggering thing. So I think a lot of the guys you mentioned, Max, Dalot versus Wan-Bissaka is an interesting one for me. I think you can go either way about which one you want to keep. I think Dalot provides something a bit different. Wan-Bissaka has kind of just been taken out of the squad recently. But yeah, I think United's in for a rough summer, and it's going to take 2, 3, 4 windows in order for them to be on the level of Liverpool and Manchester City at this point in time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that should probably wrap up our United discussion here. They're just in such a bad situation, but hopefully for Manchester United fans, cannot get sorted out. But let's move on to some UCL talk. We got the semifinals coming up. I know your 2 teams are in it, and I know you guys got to be excited. I mean, I think I know what the final is going to be looking like. I think we all do, but which could be insane. I'll just get to it real quick. A Liverpool City final would be an electric factory. It'd be insane. But before we get there, City has to beat Real Madrid, and Liverpool has to knock off Don Unai Emery and his Yellow Submarines. So let's start off with Liverpool-Villarreal, though.
Yeah, I think Liverpool should not underestimate Villarreal. Point blank simple. I think Villarreal is made for this competition. I think Unai Emery knows how to win games in this kind of scenario. Liverpool are the much more talented side. I don't think anybody disputes that. But especially when the second leg is going to be at Villarreal, if they can get a positive result at Anfield, not something that's easy, but certainly something they can do. They showed it against Bayern. They can really make things difficult for the biggest teams in Europe. I know Bayern's not a team that's necessarily been the greatest in the Champions League this season, but I think they showed what they're capable of. Danjuma's been excellent. Jared Moreno. They've brought in guys like Gio Lo Celso, who's been critical for their success. They're very structured defensively with Pau Torres and Raul Albiol. So I think once you start looking at the whole team, they're really structured well, and they can make it difficult for Liverpool. That being said, I think Liverpool will get through, but I'm gonna have it being very close, something where it's going to be between one or two goals. But I think there are certainly reasons to believe Villarreal can pull off the upset here and get to a European final. But with that being said, I think Liverpool, now that they're fully healthy, the whole squad is fully fit at the moment, besides Roberto Firmino, who's dealing with an injury. But by then, he should be fine. But with the first leg at Liverpool at Anfield, I think they need to get a very good positive result, whether that's winning by 1 or 2 goals. Otherwise, I think Villarreal opens the door at home in the reverse fixture. But on the surface, I'll take Liverpool to get to the final.
I think you got to take Liverpool or favor Liverpool. But again, if Villarreal have proven anything this tournament, it's you can't take them lightly. They're going to give a game to anybody that they've gone up against. They've knocked out 2 of the European giants in recent memory in Juve and Bayern Munich. And so, although, yes, Liverpool are far better, in my opinion, and should be favored to go into the final, it will by no means be an easy tie. And I think Villarreal will keep it close.
Yeah, I think – so here's kind of where I think maybe Villarreal can pull this off, is that Emery is great in ties, right? Like, he's not very good in the league. We saw with Arsenal. We saw Villarreal was in, 10th maybe, or something like that 2 weeks ago. They're just not that good. But he knows how to set up his team and win a tie. So I actually think this matchup is a bit harder for Liverpool than Bayern Munich would be. I do. I think Liverpool would run rampant on that high line that Nagelsmann plays. So I think this benefits Villarreal a little bit better, or hurts Liverpool a little bit more than it would hurt than it would be if they were playing Bayern. But I think the quality is just too much at Liverpool, and I think it's going to overwhelm Villarreal. I think they win relatively easily. I don't think a deep block works against Liverpool. Like, I don't know. They seem like a team that almost has zero flaws, and I guess the one way you would attack Liverpool is by attacking their fullbacks. But I don't really think Villarreal has enough good attacking players on the wings to do that.
Yeah, the other thing to mention is Jared Moreno is, I think, going to miss both legs. Currently dealing with a hamstring injury, and it looks like he's going to be out till early May. So he might miss both legs, which is critical because he's one of their two best attacking players and a guy that scored almost 10 goals in the league this year. So that'll be a big miss for Villarreal if he can't get fit for at least the second leg.
Yeah, but moving on, let's talk a little bit City Real Madrid, which was probably going to be very fun, especially with the form that Benzema's in. And before I kick it to you, Max, I saw a funny tweet. I think you'll find this a little bit funny. I don't remember exactly. I couldn't find it, but it was basically, so you guys know how Real Madrid puts their lineups out like 2 hours early, right? They said Pep's going to have a conniption in the locker room when he sees his lineup out 2 hours early and going to play Zach Steffen in the midfield or something like that. Like, that's we know Pep overthinks the big games, and honestly, that he might do it again. But Max, how do you see this tie coming out?
City should be favored here, but like you mentioned, Karim Benzema serves as an equalizer against any side. I mean, we saw what he did. He scored back-to-back hat tricks against the likes of PSG and Chelsea in back-to-back Champions League games. He had a total of 4 goals in that tie against Chelsea. I mean, that's one of the better defenses in all of Europe. I mean, this was the best defense in Europe last year. And one single player he's having a Ronaldo-esque season in the Champions League this year. We can't dispute that. So that's the biggest worry from a City perspective. I obviously, and that's not to disrespect Real Madrid. Real Madrid are a really good team. They have a really good quality group of players. That midfield trio is still just as good as they were years ago. But yeah, if City can find a way to limit the influence of Karim Benzema, that is the way that City can go on and win this tie. Because literally, if you look at, again, he single-handedly won the PSG tie. He practically single-handedly won the Chelsea tie with the exception of 1 goal. So if City can find a way to shut him out and make him a relative non-factor, which is easier said than done in this tie, that's how City can go on and move and go through to the final once again. But I think that really comes down to them controlling possession, doing what they do best, controlling the tempo of the game, creating chances, and not letting them get caught out in the counter. And so if City can do that, then I think they can go through. But to answer your point about Pep overthinking, he certainly has that in his arsenal. We know that he's done that the past couple of years. I'm not too worried about him doing it in the semifinals. I think he's past the point of doing that over 2 legs. I think I'm more so concerned of him doing that on a one-off game, like in the final, say against Liverpool. Especially since I don't know if there's a word for not overthinking, for like underthinking, like he did in the FA Cup semifinals with the lineup that he put out against Liverpool, which led them to lose to Liverpool, obviously. So I hope it's a case of respecting Liverpool this time. And but not overthinking. But again, I don't want to go into the final quite yet because again, Real Madrid are a real team. Wouldn't be shocked if they can pull off the upset, but I'm going to still stick with City.
Yeah, I think you have to favor Manchester City here. A lot of what Max just mentioned is perfectly understandable. I think Real Madrid, the biggest concern for them is having a letdown over a 45, 60-minute period like they did against Chelsea. And if they do that, against a well-organized team who's maybe the best team in Europe at the moment, it won't work. It won't happen. No matter what Karim Benzema does, I think if they have a period where we saw against Chelsea, they let Mason Mount, Timo Werner, and I think Kai Havertz were that front 3 in that game, totally dismantle them and create error after error and problems for them. I think if you do that against the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez, whoever Pep goes for, I think they're going to just shoot themselves in the foot and create their own problems. So I think right now, Manchester City are the better team. Real Madrid are, playing well, and like you guys have mentioned, Karim Benzema can create anything on his own at any given moment. So I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's something where Real Madrid will just get completely put off the park. But if they can get a good result at the Etihad in the first leg this week and then take the reverse fixture back at their place at the Bernabeu, I think it'll be interesting. But I would favor Manchester City to get through, making an all English final.
Yeah, I think you have to favor City, right? Because they're the much better team here. Real Madrid, while dominating La Liga's kind of fell off a little bit. And I don't know, but then you think Benzema's been in the Champions League form of his life. He's had hat tricks in each leg so far, round 16 quarterfinals. So, and then you got Modric, who put in an insane. I mean, that pass he made to was it Rodrigo? I think.
Yeah, Rodrigo.
Yeah, that was insane. I mean, that's one thing that makes me think maybe Real Madrid will win because so much individual brilliance. If it makes sense, I don't view City as an individual brilliance team. I view them as a nailed down great system. I think Pep has a great system, and while they're players who can show off individual brilliance like Kevin De Bruyne, I view them more as 1,000 passes. They'll pass it down and have an easy goal, right? Real Madrid, on the other hand, it feels like players just somehow come in and take over. They don't have a great system, but Modric will put one of the best passes you've ever seen in your life in, or Benzema will just take over a game. So, yes, I am leaning City. I think their system is extremely, extremely good, and they have great players. My only concern is if you have one of those times where Benzema takes Michael Jordan's super juice again, secret sauce, and goes crazy. I mean, that's literally the only way I can see Real Madrid winning because they're not close to being on the level of Manchester City. Like, at least not coaching-wise, for sure. I'm taking Pep over Carlo Ancelotti 7 times a week and twice on Sunday.
I think you got to give credit where credit's due for Carlo Ancelotti. I mean, the fact that they managed to make it this far in the Champions League and dominate La Liga the way they have. I mean, yeah, you always expect.
What is he doing that makes it happen? It's really just been Benzema scoring hat tricks.
I think he's just. I don't know if it's. I think the fact that he's playing Benzema play with a little bit more freedom, that he's committing to a consistent lineup, that I think he's made, for example, Vinicius Jr. a regular player in the starting 11 every single game. Little things like that, little tweaks here and there really make a difference. I mean, Vinicius Jr., I can't speak highly enough about him. I think the only thing is it's crazy because his dribbling ability, his distribution are world class. His finishing is that of like a League One player. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like that's the one element of his game that he just, if he became like even I don't know, like a championship level finisher in front of goal, he would be no questions asked a world-class player. But I'm not gonna nitpick. But my point is, I rate Vinicius really highly. I think the fact that he's one of the first names on the team sheet every week is something that Ancelotti's done, and that's something that Vinicius has earned, and something that Real Madrid have benefited from completely. His impact on a game cannot be understated, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited overall because it's UCL. You never know what happened. I mean, imagine we get a Villarreal versus Real Madrid final.
Oh my God.
I think that still is quite interesting. I mean, obviously,
Christian and I don't want to talk about that scenario.
Yeah, of course we don't want that, but I mean.
But another thing that this comes down to now is there's a chance that we could be going into the final talking about a Liverpool quadruple possibility.
There's a chance.
I'm going to resist my temptation to start speaking about that because City are dominating Watford right now, and they dominated Brighton in the second half. So I'm going to hold my speaking on Premier League.
I can see City dropping a point somewhere.
Well, I mean, Joe, we need you to pull off. Well, actually, we don't need it. Really, in reality, we control our own destiny. But we would appreciate it if Harry Kane decided to show up against Liverpool in a big game. That'd be nice.
You know what would be nice? If there's something going on when we play Liverpool. I don't understand what it is. We'll outplay them for 90 minutes and still lose. It happens way too often. I don't get it. We're going to be going in there 2-2 in the 85th minute. That game coming up, and someone's going to miss a sitter. Kulusevski's going to miss a sitter, and then Bobby Firmino's going to score in the 90th minute.
I knew as soon as he said 2-2, he was going to mention one guy and one guy only.
I know exactly how it's going to happen. It happens every year. It happens every year, Christian the Block, and I'm sick and tired.
It kind of does happen every year now that I think about it.
We can go back. So when I started watching 18-19, in 18-19, Toby Alderweireld own goal to give at Anfield. Then UCL final that year with the Sissoko handball and the Origi goal. Okay, but that was not as much, but we'll still throw that in there. 1920 was when we played no one, and Tanganga locked up Mane, but you guys still somehow, you guys won like 1-0 when you guys were on. Like we played you really well, but you guys won 1-0 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Do you remember that by any chance?
Yeah, no. I think Firmino scored in that tie.
Yeah,
or in that game.
And we played you well, but we just won that game. But 2021, Firmino scores a game winner on Christmas birthday. Oh God, I think I lost it that game. That day, I think I lost it.
That's when Spurs were at the top of the league, I think.
Yeah. I was like, this is going to decide the title, and then City just came back and absolutely did nasty things to the rest of the league. And this year, we outplay you for the entire game under Conte at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but Dele Alli fails in front of goal. I mean, I think we ended up in a draw, but we outplayed you guys by an insane amount that game this year. So I'm ready for
listen, if Harry Kane wants to do what he did against City against Liverpool, we welcome it. We welcome it.
You can save it for another week.
Who's he going to go up against? Would it be Salah or Mane? Right.
Oh.
Who's Emerson going up against in that game?
Well, Diaz probably.
Joe, that's actually kind of funny.
Joe, that's actually a matchup of disaster.
Please, Jesus, help us.
Dude, I'm hoping for an Everton. I want a Frank Lampard masterclass. I'm going to say it right now.
Yeah, let's talk about Frank, that real quick. Because
come on, Big Frank.
We need them to stay up because I can't have non-Sean Dyche Burnley up.
Yeah, exactly. There's two reasons why. It's obviously from the City perspective, but also because we need Everton to stay up because of the disservice that Burnley did to the entire Premier League. Let's talk about it, Joe.
Oh my God, I don't understand why they would sack it. I just don't get it. Like,
you're just gonna sit back and let you guys go.
Why after that game do you sack him? It doesn't make sense to me. And there's only 5 games
left. He's too good for Burnley, Joe. Burnley's a small club. Sean Dyche is a big manager.
You should have hired Dyche, not Ten Hag.
I'm telling you right now. I said this before the show started. Fulham FC. Okay, London's big club, right? Okay, let's Marco Silva. Let's see how you do. I'm not saying he's not going to do well. Maybe he does, but if he doesn't pan out, say he gets the boot. Bring in Sean Dyche. You bring in Sean Dyche to keep Fulham in the Premier League. That'd be quite the English comeback story for the Premier League.
That'd be very fun. That'd be enjoyable to see Dyche come back. And imagine he relegates.
Christian agrees, right? Right, Christian?
Imagine he comes back. Imagine Burnley stay up. He comes back and he single-handedly puts the nail in the coffin to Burnley.
Imagine.
The Sean Dyche revenge tour.
This is what dreams are made of.
Bigger than the Aguero moment.
Oh, insane. That press conference afterwards is gonna be insane.
Dude, he's just gonna go. It's gonna be like a blizzard and on Turf Moor. Like the players aren't gonna be able to even touch the pitch, and he's just gonna show up shirtless. He's just gonna show up shirtless.
I love the one with him. They put him on Stone Cold, his face on Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Dude, I love that. That's just the power of Sean Dyche.
He is him.
And yes, I know Burnley are picking up form. Let's not pretend that isn't the case. But you know what? Fate will determine where Burnley's going, and that's in the Championship. All right.
You know what I also want to say? I've seen all this love for Sean Dyche recently. I swear we started that. I swear.
Honestly, yeah. Where did this come from? Seriously.
Like I'm being so serious that we were the first people that started this.
You guys on a Saturday morning.
Casual.
That was us.
Like we've been doing this for like what, close to like since
3 months.
No, longer than that.
We've been doing this for a long time.
Like, it's got to be close to since this season started up.
Probably even before that, because we used to because I think it started when we used to talk about who we think would be a better manager for England than Gareth Southgate.
Also over the summer. So I have you over the summer.
Over the summer, dude. Yeah.
We might be onto something here. We the Soccer Sit-Down Show are cultural legends. We are Himothy's.
We're pioneers.
We are. But I think before we wrap up, we should talk about this one rumor. Conte to PSG. Antonio Conte has apparently been rumored to wanting to make a move to PSG, which makes absolutely zero sense to me because I'm going to just say it right now. Conte does terrible in the UCL and PSG just wants to win the UCL, so I just don't understand the fit there. And maybe I'm coming off as a salty Spurs fan, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you bring in Conte if you're trying to win a UCL? Bring in Zidane. It doesn't make sense at all to me. Also, I don't really think that team fits his system at all.
No.
I don't see it happening. I think that's a bottle drop.
And then him and Leonardo too.
Manager.
Him and Leonardo trying to get together.
Not a match made in heaven, to say the least.
Match made.
Well, to be fair, no, I'm not going to be rude to Joe. I'm not going to make the comment I was going to make.
I'll make it. Say it.
Because it's nothing personal. It's just, Conte was definitely not the manager, or Spurs and Conte were not the club and manager that I thought would happen, but good for Spurs, honestly.
Right. Well, he should not be here. And it's going to be hilarious when he's like, everyone's like, oh, Levy's promised Conte 6 new summer signings, and he gets the 2.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on.
I think Spurs are in a really good spot with Conte. Seriously.
Hope so. Well, we have to get top 4, but we're going to lose to Brentford today. All I know is what's going to happen. 87th minute, Christian Eriksen steps up to take a free kick against his old team right outside the penalty box. Surely he doesn't score against his old team. Kick. Eriksen, it's in. Brentford take a 2-1 lead. I can see it.
You know it's Watford when Gabi Jesus, by the way, has a first half brace and Rodri scores a screamer from outside the box.
Respect Jesus, please.
Listen, I don't want to sell him to Arsenal. I don't.
He's good. I'm sorry. I really do think he's good.
No,
well, what did I tell you guys before the Liverpool game? I said, because we were talking about the lineup, and I said Gabi Jesus has success against Liverpool, and he scored against Liverpool. I'm telling you, he shows up he's not consistent. He's consistent in his link-up play. He's not consistent in his finishing ability in front of goal. But in the big games, he shows up a lot of the time in the big games, man. He's a good player. I rate him. But, yeah, I hope he doesn't go to Arsenal. I want him to go somewhere not in the Premier League, ideally, if he has to leave.
Yeah. But I think he's going to want to stay in the Premier. If Arsenal get him, that's scary. And also, Nketiah's been doing really well for them, too.
That game against Chelsea was impressive, dude.
Yeah.
All right. I have a conspiracy theory, Joe, here. I think Chelsea threw that game.
Why would they?
They don't like us. They don't want us to get top 4.
Joe, come on.
What was that lineup? They just randomly put out one of the worst lineups they've ever put out.
I noticed that, but I think they're just trying to. Well, they want to put.
They're not even guaranteed top 4.
What?
They're not even guaranteed top 4.
They're guaranteed top 4. Yeah. Or then you don't think they're gonna get top 4? Come on,
Joe. It's not an anti-Spurs conspiracy.
I'm not saying they won't, but Arsenal's 2 points behind them. I mean, they have 2 more games to play, but
what are we? We have.
Is Chelsea going to win this last 7 games? No.
They have to play. They're going to smoke Manchester United. Okay, that's 1 win. They're going to beat West Ham. They're going to beat Everton. They're going to draw.
We can't guarantee that they're going to beat West Ham, Joe.
You can't do that.
I think I can. And I think I will.
Well, I know you will.
I think I will. They're going to beat West Ham.
Okay. They play Everton, though. They also play Everton, which, I mean, you have to take them over Everton, right?
Yeah. Wolves are going to lose. They're either going to lose or draw to Wolves. For some reason, Ruben Neves is going to drop a 10 out of 10 again.
I'm here for it.
Wolves, how about them, though? They've been nice.
Bruno
They're always that team, that sneaky decent mid-table team. Like, well, they're 8 right now. They're only they're a game away. Yeah,
It's
dude, if they
interesting
win
how
the next
when
game,
two teams got rid of a guy by the name of Nuno Espirito Santo, and they got better.
dude, if Wolves win their next 2 games, they can get ahead of United. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Let me see what their next 2 games are. They play Burnley, beat Burnley, and they play Brighton, which Brighton's a decent team, but Wolves could potentially get a result there.
No, I think you would have to believe Wolves can get the win. I mean, Brighton haven't been great.
Beat Burnley. You know what? No, we're pro Dyche. We're no longer Burnley guys. Beat Burnley, get them out of the league. That starts with Wolves.
Burnley. Let's see the table. I don't know, man. If they stay up,
I'm going to cry.
Let's see. Everton. They're 1 point away from Everton, but they've played one more game than Everton. They're 1 point below Everton, I should say.
But Everton were lucky to
confirmed
scrape
to be relegated yet?
against Leicester. I don't know. I think it's still wide open.
It is wide open. No, it is wide open. But if Everton win their game in hand, there's a little bit of a cushion there. But again, their game in hand, of course, is against Liverpool.
Like, there's not a lot of points left on the board for them. Everton, in my opinion. I mean,
Everton does have a tough run in.
Burnley, though, I think they could definitely beat Watford.
Oh,
They could beat Villa too.
They should beat Watford.
They played Villa twice. You telling me they're not going to get a win over Villa twice? Like
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't.
Villa
They
twice,
shouldn't. They
but
should get maybe 1 point out of those 2 games. But
I
Villa's
agree
been
with that.
disappointing.
I agree with
There's
that.
not many points on the board for either.
Villa's got a known choker at the helm for them too. So
That's definitely
the
issue.
They got Slippy G over there.
That's the
Win
new
a Premier League. Win a
Joeism.
Premier League title, Steven Gerrard. Challenge difficulty impossible. I can't wait for him to take over Klopp and tank Liverpool.
Can we please let's have Wolves masterclass against Burnley. Let's have a Watford masterclass against Burnley. Let's have a Aston Villa double masterclass against Burnley. Let's have a Tottenham Harry Kane masterclass against Burnley, and then let's have a Newcastle masterclass against Burnley.
We need them to go down. I don't even know. Like, I feel like
It's not good for the brand. It's not good for the soccer sit down show if Burnley stay up.
What type of football are Burnley going to be playing without Dyche? Like Burnley's whole identity is Sean Dyche, and now they just
Sean Dyche is bigger than Burnley.
He is. He's massive.
Here's the thing, Joe. Would you agree that it's not good for the soccer sit down show brand if Burnley stay up without Sean Dyche?
It's awful for us. Awful.
It's the worst news we've ever had.
We were supposed to have a Sean Dyche party when he kept them up. We were supposed to have a Sean Dyche.
Dude, but I'm convinced he would have been able to keep him up. I'm actually convinced.
He would have.
I was ready to have my Sean
He's
Dyche
coaching
party.
the team now. That's the worst football institution in the land of England.
Think of what Burnley took from us, Joe. They took our Sean Dyche celebration.
They took our happiness.
They took the soul of the soccer sit down show.
We need to make a special TWSN shirt. It's going to be called Live, Love, Dyche. And there's Sean Dyche's face on that.
It's just Sean Dyche's
Live, love, Dyche.
Live, love, Dyche. We need that. I would wear that.
That's crazy.
Well, I think that'll do it for us today. We'll see you guys next week to talk. Obviously, break down what happened in the UCL semis and next week maybe. I mean, if nothing big happens, we could tackle top 4 a little bit more too. So, but we have a week to decide. So, we will see you guys next week. For Joe, Christian, and Max. Peace out.
Welcome everyone to the TWSN Betting Patreon. If you like making a little money and want an entire team do the research for you daily, come join us here. We have 5 different packages: Rookie, Starter, Veteran, Hall of Fame, and GOAT, with each one increasing in different types of betting analysis for you. Just know if you subscribe to any one of these tiers on the TWSN Betting Patreon, you're getting a team that is putting hours and hours daily into the best bets, into the futures bets, into any question that you have. So there's only one thing left to do. Join the TWSN betting Patreon, as there's only one way to bet the right way.